Thank you everyone to coming. I know 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning after a very full 3 days is early, so I appreciate you being here. Just a quick quote about creativity. Creativity is a way of living life, no matter our vocation or how we earn our living. Creativity is not limited to the arts or having some kind of important career by Madeline L'Engle. I think that's just a good way to start off our session because creativity can mean so many different things and doesn't have to just look one way. All right, quick introduction to me. My name is Nicole Blubaugh. I am a Las Vegas native. I've lived here my entire life, and I'm also a member of Lug Vegas. I am a former elementary school public school teacher turned homeschool parent. We've been homeschooling for this is our 12th year, so we're in it for the long haul. I'm also a club coordinator for the Southern Nevada Homeschool Brick Builders, and I have a special interest in really encouraging the teens. I am also an Irish dance teacher. Reading and Lego are my passions, and I absolutely love when those two cross paths. And this is my fourth virtual BrickCon. And I really hope the virtual option continues because I've enjoyed it so much and love all the presentations. It's always been my favorite part of being able to attend virtually is just all the interesting information that I've been able to learn from other people. So, quick timeline of my Lego journey. I won't spend too much time on this, but my introduction to Lego was in the 80s. I did not ask for Lego or have Lego that was my own, but my brother had the classic castle sets, and I remember playing with him with those castle sets. That's about the extent of my Lego as a kid. And then from the 90s to about 2005, I don't recall there being any Lego in my life at all. Um, at some point, after I fell in love with the world of Harry Potter in college and as a teacher, I got a couple of Harry Potter sets off of eBay, but I was still very much an underground Lego fan at that point. I remember wandering through Toys R Us wanting to buy all the things, but feeling weird about it, and so I didn't, which I very much regret. Once I had kids, my oldest son, who's now 15, got really into Lego at the age of 5. And so that was kind of my excuse to start buying Lego and filling our house with Lego. And I continued more openly buying Harry Potter sets as that new wave came out. But I still was just a set builder. I didn't see myself as creative. Um, I knew that I could be a Lego club facilitator. I didn't need to be a builder per se to be able to do that. And so I kind of got by with bringing Lego to homeschool kids that enjoyed it and encouraging them, but without really being much of a mock builder myself. Um, then in 2023, I was on Instagram and had a homeschool friend from New Zealand that I will skip ahead so you can see that her son was really into Lego and she had shared some of his mosaic builds. And I'd seen mosaics before, but for whatever reason on this particular day, it just really struck me as something that I wanted to do. And so you can see my comment that I was going to head to the Lego store and buy myself some dot sets so I could get started on mosaics. And that's exactly what I did. The funny thing is, I kind of think of myself as not a person that, is really drawn to really bright colors, pinks and whatever. I like the, darker colors. And so I was like, I'm going to get the Harry Potter Lego dot sets and start there because those are the color schemes that I like. Well, I was very wrong about, limiting myself to those colors, and that's expanded since then. But that's where I started, literally with a gallon Ziploc bag worth of plates and dots. And that's how I started making mosaics. So in July of 2023, I had my mosaic pieces. I decided that I wanted to challenge myself. This was completely by myself. No one else was involved. I had my gallon Ziploc bag of Lego pieces, and I was going to build a small mosaic every single day in July. One of the kits must have come with a black 8x8 plate, and so that was the base that I used. And I didn't really have any. Other inspiration, I hadn't gotten into the Lego side of Instagram yet. And so I was just kind of building from my brain and just seeing what happens. So for 31 days, I built a different mosaic. I took a picture. I had to take apart because I didn't have enough pieces to keep them all together. These are just a few of my very first mini mosaics that I made. And then jump ahead to 2024 and this year, I decided that it would be fun to share that 31-day challenge that I did by myself initially and created an Instagram challenge that other people could join in on. So I've done three of those now. And my only rules kind of are to build or share a mosaic every day for 31 days. I started by saying build a mosaic every day because that's what I did, but I found that that didn't actually work for everyone. Some people needed to be able to build ahead to accommodate their schedules, or it worked differently for everybody. So I kind of changed it to sharing a mosaic every day. My particular rule is 8 by 8 or smaller, so it could be 6 by 6 or something other than that, but trying to keep the goal as something small and manageable on a daily basis. And then just having fun and being inspired. I'll talk a little bit more about and show you some examples of some mosaics that have kind of come about from the challenges. But this is kind of why I'm so passionate about mini mosaics, because I've been able to share that with people and really show what you can do in a small space. So we're going to talk more about that today. All right, so what is a Lego mosaic? Um, you guys can raise your hands. I can't really see you all very well, but if you know what a Lego mosaic is, just give me a wave or a hand up in the air. Okay, if you don't, I'm going to run through this really quickly because I feel like most of you have probably had some exposure, but a Lego mosaic is a picture, design, or pattern made of small plates or tiles. And this one I'm kind of added just to clarify what can count as a mosaic because I think sometimes people call something a mosaic, but it doesn't really fit. But a top-down view, like as if you were looking at a floor tile from above, or a front view like art from a wall or on a wall. Like if you're thinking about the traditional glass or pottery mosaics that you've seen in history. So it's just that very two-dimensional design made of small pieces. So what if, oh, I got some examples here. So these are not mini mosaics. These are a little bit bigger. They're not much bigger. This one in the middle is a 16 by 16. These two are 32 by 32 roughly, but you can just kind of see the small pieces make a picture or a pattern. Okay, but what if it's not flat? Is it really still a mosaic? That could probably be something up for discussion, but let's talk about a little bit of vocabulary here. Just for your information, a relief sculpture is a sculpture that projects from a two-dimensional background. There can be varying depths. Low relief projects from the background slightly, whereas high relief is almost fully three-dimensional. So really, some mosaics Lego mosaics are actually relief sculptures that you utilize the mosaic style. And I'm sure that you saw a fair amount of that on display in person there. This is an example of one of my mosaics that really pops off the two-dimensional background. And so while we just still call it a mosaic, it does kind of cross into that relief sculpture style as well. All right, so why mini mosaics? Uh, Large mosaics allow for so much detail. People make amazing pictures. I've seen just some beautiful large mosaics. So why should we spend our time making teeny tiny mosaics that don't catch your eye from across the room? Small but mighty, that's kind of my little saying right now. So time. A mini mosaic, 8 by 8 or smaller, you can create in 10 to 15 minutes. You can sit down in one sitting in the middle of a busy day and you can complete a mosaic from start to finish. So that is a big reason why I love these mini mosaics because they don't require a lot of time. They don't even necessarily require a lot of planning, depending on what your goal is, but it's something that you can complete in a very short amount of time. And I know that we are all feeling short on time, but we still need to carve out that time for ourselves. All right, so mental health, this is kind of a big topic that I like to talk about for myself, just dealing with anxiety and just the stress of life. I'm constantly searching for ways to kind of give myself a break from just the mental clutter that's kind of always going on. So how can mini mosaics help with your mental health? This is from my personal experience. Everyone is going to have a different experience, but maybe some of these you'll be able to relate to. So I've found that doing something with my hands that is not a mindless thing like, washing the dishes or something that you don't really have to think about, something that I have to spend some mental energy on allows my brain to calm down. So all those kind of spinning thoughts that are, in my head, especially on busy days or when, there's something bothering me, I can sit down with a mosaic and it kind of just wipes that away. Not forever, but at least for a short amount of time, it kind of gives me a break. And so I've just found, and Lego isn't the only thing that will do that for you. And it's not just mosaics, it can be other building as well. It can be, crocheting, knitting, th anything you do with your hands that requires you to kind of think about it can give you that break and get you back into the present moment instead of being so caught up in your head. I also find that uh, I like to listen to audiobooks or music sometimes when I'm building as well. So, one thing that is big is, and this is how I can do a build every day for 31 days during my challenge, is I focus on the process of building over the actual product. So, when we're building for a convention or even building something to share with other people in whatever way that you do that, we want to share our best, but it doesn't mean that we can't share the process or just have things that was like today I'm building because I need to build, not because I want to have a final product. And so some days that's all I can manage. I don't have the energy or, time or even feel very creative and feel like I just need to focus on placing bricks on the plate. And that is good enough because that's what I need on that day. And I think that that is also really great to share in spaces. I don't shy away from sharing mosaics that are not my favorite that I've built or that I don't feel like they are finished on my Instagram because I want people to know that it's okay to share those less than perfect um, things that we create because that's what's real. And so I think that's important to share that. So another thing about the small mosaics is that because it's something you can complete in a short amount of time, it's beneficial for you. When you complete tasks, your body is getting a hit of dopamine, which makes you feel good. And so when we have something we can complete quickly, it's like a win and it feels good in our body and it helps us want to do more of that. And then mosaics for mental health. Sometimes I just I actually have that on my shirt right now. I don't think you guys can see it, but um, it's just something I kind of share to remind everybody that this is a tool. It's not the only tool, but it is a tool to help with positive mental health. All right, mini mosaics are also an accessible entry point for a lot of people because of the short amount of time and it's not a big project. A lot of people can participate in mini mosaics. I've used them with kids, sometimes Lego building kids, sometimes not, with adults that, again, have built with Lego and some that have never touched Lego or maybe haven't since they were kids. Great for non-builders. And for groups, it can be like a team building activity or just like a fun mom's night. So here are some examples of mosaics that were made by people that were not involved in Lego very much. These two pictures on the outside with the hands, those are actually some of my dancers. I had brought materials to class, or I think I maybe had them still at the dance studio because I had run a Lego camp and I had left them there. And so I just got them out one day at the beginning of class and it was kind of a little just time to relax, team building, just like a little creative project for a minute. And, you can see that they all went a different direction. I didn't give them any instruction really, other than here's the materials and have at it. And they had a blast making those. And then these ones in the middle here are ones that I had bought some kits specifically for a mom's night. And these are moms in my homeschool group. And I don't think any of them have built with Lego anytime in the last 20 years. And so it was just a fun, relaxing, creative way to spend some time together one evening. All right. Here's another example that is similar to the mosaic quilt that I know is on display there. This is where I actually got the idea to do this quilt at Bricks Vegas. Bricks Vegas is just a small one-day event that we had last year, and what we're doing again this year. But I had my Lego Club kids make a mosaic each during club time with club materials. And then I included some of my own. A couple of people from my lug participated, but that was our first year. So, everybody can just kind of do whatever works for them. There's so many different styles and approaches, and it's just a fun, no stress way to, play with bricks and be creative. This coming year, we're planning on doing offering some to the public, again, so that they could add it to the quilt as well. So again, very accessible to people that maybe have not built. Okay, so something that I love about the smaller builds is that they can turn into bigger ideas. This is an example from Dana at Virginia Bricks on Instagram, one of my favorite mosaic people. These are all mosaics that she built during one of my 31-day challenges. And then afterwards, she decided that she was going to take those patterns that she designed and she turned them into this pattern study. I don't know if that's what she calls it, but just this neat, larger mosaic that features all these different patterns going in different directions. It's just such an interesting thing to look at. And then a few of my small mosaics I liked a lot. I'm like, oh, I think I want to try to expand that or do something more with that. And sometimes it literally just becomes the centerpiece on a slightly larger mosaic. This is a 16 by 16, so not huge. But then I, took that and continued on this. In this case, I didn't continue the pattern on, but did something with this. I call this one Chaos into Calm. That was kind of like a mental thing that was just a way to kind of get that out last year when things were really busy for me. Okay, so this was a flower that I had made and I liked the pattern. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to play around with some different color schemes. So I took that. Here's the original one, but I also added some layers and some height, and then did just all different colors and just put them in together into this colorful quilt. And then here's another kind of flower quilt that I did where I did actually just extend the pattern and repeated it. So these little mosaics can almost be like a sketch sometimes. You can just be playing around with pattern ideas or pieces or textures or colors just to see what you like on a small space, like as if you were, sketching a drawing with pencil and it's, just almost like a rough draft. And then it can turn into something bigger. Or maybe you don't even take, this same exact thing, but maybe it inspired an idea for something else. All right. So 8 by 8, that's 64 studs. That is not a lot of space. It is a tiny little space. So what can you actually do in that little space? So I'm going to share some of the mosaics that were from people that participated in the July challenge. And just to show you all the different directions that you can really go with this very small space. So this is a family, Team Hummel Bricks, that likes to build together, and they all share their work at different times depending on who's building something. So here's something by Peter, the dad. So you can see that there's flowers popping off. It's not just a flat mosaic. And he's even going off the edges a little bit. And then Luke, one of the kids, just took, something that interested him and made a picture out of it. And Quinn, his sister, was really into the Disney mini dolls. And so she had several of these that kind of followed the color scheme. And she even went off the edge a little bit as well, which is something that was kind of an extra challenge within the challenge that encouraged people to kind of push those boundaries, but without completely abandoning the 8x8 or smaller size. All right, Jody, this Lego Lady Life, she decided that she was going to focus on minifigs for the entire month, and somehow she did an entire month of minifig mosaics, which was so impressive. And here are just a couple that she did. And she really packed in so much detail and color and interesting things into this little small space that featured these minifigs. The minifig challenge was actually one of the hardest ones for me to complete myself for whatever reason. And so that I really appreciated that she was able to do so much with those. Okay, so Jessica Bevere has been collecting Clickets, which I'm not very familiar with Clickets. I guess they were available from about 2003 to 2006, I think. And they were just like little accessories for girls. And she's been collecting them, and she decided to do an entire month focusing on these pieces that she's been collecting and loved. And so she did kind of a monochrome type mosaic, but then included those Clickets along with other types of Lego pieces as well. And so you can see just the variety and just her passion for this particular um, Lego element that not very many people know about. So it was really fun to see what she came up with and all the different pieces. All right, so here's Dana from Virginia Bricks again. She does a lot of patterns and textures, and you don't see it as much in these ones, but she is like the queen of layers. So that's actually where I learned to do layering in my own mosaics. So you can see something as simple as one type of piece in different colors and rotated different ways can make such an interesting design. And then using jumper plates to create layers. And then using, I don't know what these pieces are called, but you can hook like the little charms to them. And she did a sideways build uh, featuring those, which just looks so interesting. And just, the layering and just the different textures and colors. So unlimited possibilities. All right, Malcolm from Malco Bricks really had a lot of fun playing with a lot of different elements and techniques during his month. And these are a couple that he did with the antenna and using the chains to cross over, using jumper plates, using this grill plate to kind of create a layer here. Here's his entire month. So you can see just the variety of things. And again, a great opportunity to just play with a lot of different ideas. He's got his minifigs here. He even used the brick separators. I know you can't see a lot of these in detail, but just such a wide array. And then some people decide to make a display or put all their mosaics together in some way so that they can display them afterwards, which I think is great because it really lets people know that it's not just about big mosaics, that there are other options that are maybe a little less intimidating for someone that's just starting out. All right, Shell from Miss Sparkle Bricks is a master at pushing the boundaries and still creating small mosaics, but going off the edge, creating different shapes. She just does such a great job with just really thinking outside the box on her designs. All right, and then monochrome mosaics. These builds by Brick Build Away, Becca, she did the monochrome, but she also is really good at um, I don't know what's actually called sideways building. It's not a technique that I've tried yet, but I think it's amazing and so interesting to do. And so she decided that she wanted to challenge herself additionally, other than just building 31 mosaics in the month. She decided she was going to build monochrome and had this whole plan that she executed. And there you can see her whole collection. And so many different styles and techniques depending on what pieces she was using and really just focusing in on those colors. Okay, and then we have Katya from Pelixa and the Bricks. I wish I had close-ups of her builds. They're just absolutely beautiful, but just so much color, different designs. The swirls are just so interesting. She just did such a wide variety of building during the month. All right, this one is one of my Lego Club kids, Brianna. She is pretty new to mosaics. She hadn't built mosaics before coming to Lego Club, and she had done a little bit in Lego Club, but she decided that she was going to join her mom in doing the 31-day challenge this month, and they had gotten some more material, so they had things on hand to do it. But she pretty much started the way that I did with a very small collection, which meant that she had to take apart her builds to build the next day oftentimes. But she's a huge Taylor Swift fan. And so she decided that she was going to build mosaics that went with different Taylor Swift songs. And so um, she did an entire month of that. I think she only had a couple repeats on her songs, but I don't know enough about Taylor Swift songs to know lyrics and whatever, but this was kind of her vision of what those songs made her feel or think of. And so she took, a passion of hers and just poured it into her mini mosaics, which I love. All right. Mini mosaics have a lot of options. You can start building completely flat, which there's nothing wrong with building completely flat. There's so much beauty in doing that. But if you want to try something new and you want to try adding layers, it's actually pretty simple to get started. And so I'm just going to walk you through just a build that I had done previously and show you how I did my layering, just to give you some ideas if you're unsure where to start or how to make layers. And there's no rules for adding layers. It's really just you have your 8x8 plate or whatever size you're using, and you are going to need smaller plates. Or possibly even bricks to add layers. And so there's so many ways that you can run with that. I started with, this is a dark blue, it's hard to tell in this picture, but a dark blue plate. And then I just picked some colors that I liked and looked in my collection too, because obviously you need to build with what you have. So I grabbed the next smaller plate and then the next smaller and then the next smaller just to kind of create this pyramid effect of layering. So I've got my base and then I've got 3 layers that I'm going to build up from that base. And then I just have a collection of the pieces that I am going to use to make the design. So I'll tell you right now, when I built this initially, it was not this in such an order like this. I didn't build layer by layer. I laid the plates down and then I kind of just went all over the place and designed it. But for the sake of this example, I'll just show you layer by layer kind of what it looks like. So I added, that first layer around here, leaving some studs open. Those ones are a little harder to see. That's another thing that has been kind of up for discussion is should you cover all the studs? Should you leave some negative space? Some people prefer there to be no studs. I like building with tiles. That's my preference. But I also like leaving some studs open as part of the design as well. So there are some open studs here in those little pockets. And then we go up to the next layer, and I just kind of repeated the same pattern, just using different colors on that next layer. And then I'm doing the same thing over here, up to that next layer. And then this is the finished product. And that's a tiny little mosaic, but there's a lot going on there. There's a lot to look at, and you can see, and this is where a lot of mosaic makers, especially on Instagram, where they're sharing their pictures virtually. And I like to do this too, is I like to take a side shot of my mosaic that has layers because looking straight on, you can't always see what those layers actually are. It's almost like it's a completely different build. And then when you look at it from the side, you can see how it stair steps. Um, so it's really cool to share that side view. And when you're in person, obviously you're able to walk around the mosaic and see the different sides and angles of it. Um, but that's what I like about layering is that from the front, it can look like it's just kind of a flat mosaic, especially if you're standing a little ways off. But when you get up close, you can see how much detail there is in those layers. Does anybody have any questions about layering in particular? Has anybody tried layering in mosaics before? Okay, I'll keep moving on, and if anybody has questions later, you're welcome to ask those. All right, here's
Nicole,
an, oh, yep, go ahead.
more of a comment. That technique you couldn't think of the name of is
Yes.
snot, stud snot on top.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So another type of layering that I've had a lot of fun playing around with is what I call it peekaboo layers. I don't know what it's actually called, it's just what I call it, but where I create a layer underneath, but I'm not completely covering it up. On these last ones, you're still seeing some of it, but like it's mostly just to bring height. It's not so much for something to be peeking out as much. That's not the purpose. But on these ones, you're seeing this little bit peeking out here. You're seeing a little bit, and that layering can create different shapes that the plates or tiles by themselves don't create, which is a lot of fun. So it's like putting these curved tiles here together, layered over creates this teardrop shape. And then you can see the little colors peeking out underneath. So I've had a lot of fun experimenting with that and leaving that negative space, which shows the depth of the layering and the design. Okay, so where can you find creativity for mosaics? I feel like a lot of you being builders already know that you're inspired by so many different places, but um, I found that quilt designs are a really fun inspiration. My mom is a quilter, and so she'll send me a design, or I even follow some quilting Facebook groups just to see quilt designs because they lend themselves really well to mosaics. So I've actually taken some quilting designs and just turned them into Lego mosaic form in colors that I want. So that's a lot of fun. Cross stitch patterns also. Um, work really well for mosaics because it's already in kind of a block design. And so, those can be an easy inspiration or way to start if you're looking for ideas. Sometimes I just take pictures of patterns that I see out in the world, like a building or something on the sidewalk, just anywhere, just to save the idea for another time in case I want to come back to it. Nature, obviously, colors flowers, trees, the sky, anything that appeals to you. Any kind of artwork. Sometimes it's just a color that you like or a color combination. Sometimes I save a picture of something that just has some colors together that I haven't thought of before that I find interesting. And then sometimes just taking your personal interests and pouring those into your mosaics. Um, for example, the Taylor Swift music, or I teach Irish dance, and so I'm drawn to Celtic knots and shamrocks and things like that. And so a lot of times I tend to build those things. So just taking whatever you're really interested in and using that for inspiration. And obviously other people's builds too. Um, I've gotten so much inspiration or ideas from other people's builds for, maybe a technique or a color or a design or something that I want to try, and I just try it, in my own way. All right. If you are on Instagram, I'm sharing Instagram things because that's where I am. I'm not in other online spaces sharing really. So this is kind of the world where I find my inspiration right now. But if you are on Instagram, and you're interested in some more mosaic ideas, Mosaics on Monday is it started as a hashtag, now it's an account because that's just how things kind of have gone. But every Monday you can post any kind of mosaic. And this is run by Dana, Virginia Bricks, and then also John from John B. Toys as well. And they just co-host this, Monday. It's not even really a challenge, it's just to share mosaics. And so you'll see really large mosaics, you'll see mini mosaics, you'll see the whole gamut of what you can do in mosaic form on that account on Mondays. And, going on there and scrolling back through for ideas is great. That I was introduced to mosaics on Monday right away. And so I got a lot of inspiration and ideas from that when I started building. Then my 31 days of mosaics challenge account. If you are interested in specifically mini mosaics, that's the place to go because you're going to find a couple thousand at this point after two challenges that are actually on this account of just ideas from different people in that small mosaic form. So, and then Virginia Bricks, her personal Lego account, she just has so many interesting mosaic ideas, and so I highly recommend checking her out. All right, I mentioned that I was a reader, and so I have to share a couple of books with all of you. Um, These are all books on creativity. They don't mention Lego specifically, but everything in these books can be applied to Lego building or any other creative endeavors that you might take on. But they're short and sweet. They each have, I think it's like 10 main points, and then there's, some information about each one and just a lot of like cool graphics. Um, but just some really great ones about sharing your work and just creativity in general. So, and quick reads because we are busy. I would not recommend, well, I don't know if these are on audio, you could listen to them, but there's so much to look at in these books. I would recommend reading them physically. All right. So it sounds like some of you do have mosaic pieces with you. So we're going to do for this last 10 minutes of time that we have, I'm going to let you all build. But at the same time, if anyone has questions or comments or something about mosaic building that you want to share from your experience, then we'll take this time to do that. Um, so I think, let's see. I think for my online people, maybe if you guys are putting things in the comments. Um, okay, let me jump ahead real quick. Again, supplies. I think at this point you guys probably kind of know what you need. So let me, okay, so you guys can see me again, and maybe I can see you guys a little bit better if anyone has questions. Um, I have some things here to build as well, but if you guys have anything you want to ask or chat about, I'm open. And then we did create a thread under the presentation section in Discord so that if you do build something today and you want to take a picture of it and share it on that Discord thread, I would love to see what you're building.
There's one question. How thick is too thick for layers?
Ooh, I don't know if there is a rule for that. I mean, you want your mosaic to be able to stand up. So it's really, if is it going to topple over? But I'm trying to think how high I've gone on an 8 by 8. Maybe even like 8 plates tall. Um, and then you just have to display it in a way that it's not going to fall over. So weight obviously is something to consider, but a lot of easels will tilt things backwards a little bit so they're not going to just, topple over front ways. And I think you saw in one of my pictures, but these little mini easels, unless you are a stickler about everything being Lego built, which I'm not, um, these are great for those little mini mosaics. I bought some wood ones just from a craft store, and those were fine. But what I don't love about them is that if you're on a slippery table, sometimes the back leg will just like slip out. So my teenage son 3D prints things, and he found a file for basically the same easel, except for it actually locks out so that it won't slip. So these are great for displaying mini mosaics. And when I'm starting a mosaic, I tend to be very symmetrical in my builds. Some people like to build asymmetrical things. My brain has a harder time with that. But I'll just usually just grab 4 of something. So if I'm digging through the bulk bins somewhere looking for, mosaic pieces, I'm always looking for things in 4s. So I'll just lay down some plates in 4s or, or center something like I did before and then just kind of go from there. So there's so many different directions that you can go. And there's some pieces, like different types of slopes that could go from, your bottom layer to your next layer. And cheese slopes are great to kind of create that look of something kind of going up to the next layer. Cheese slopes are one of my favorite pieces. But a lot of times I just sit down and grab some colors and some pieces and just see what happens. Okay, I have a question here. Let me see if I can grab it and look at it here. Oh yeah, the quilt patterns seem to be quite popular. Okay. The one that your friend did that used her small blocks is a crazy quilt. Oh, is that what it's called? Okay, crazy quilt. See, having words for things is great. Thank you. Okay. And another question, I'm curious about those white frames on the shelf behind you. Okay, so yes, those are, can you guys see back here where I'm pointing? Those are the frames from the 100 Years of Disney um, sets. It's a mosaic set that had a frame that was included. I just modified the frame slightly so it didn't include the Disney parts of it. Those are excellent for 8 by 8s. And that's also actually a really great set if you can get a hold of it. They're still for sale, but I know that you can find them even cheaper, like on eBay sometimes if you really look out for a good deal. I've gotten most of them 50% off, so I actually bought 4 total. It's a great way to build your collection of 8 by 8 plates and mosaic tiles, and you get the frame out of it. And it actually also came with a single frame. I don't have them up right now, but a single frame that you can put one a mosaic in if you're just wanting to display a single one. So those are excellent for displaying the mini mosaics. Those are almost my entire collection of the mosaics from my last 31 days of mosaics. When is the next 31-day challenge? That is a good question. I haven't decided yet. I've had some people asking me. I don't know if I'll do January and July again. I honestly have to try to pick months where other aspects of my life are not as busy. When I have really busy dance seasons, I can't maintain a 31-day challenge. So I have to think about that one. But if you follow the 31 Days of Mosaics challenge account or my personal account, which I'll put a QR code up for that here in just a second. If you follow me at Blue Fan Bricks or the 31 Day Challenge, um, whenever I figure that out, you will know about it. So, and obviously, if you hop onto my account, you're going to see mosaics as well. That's mostly what I share. I don't build a lot else. Sometimes I share some things from my family, but it's mostly mosaics. So, and I post fairly often. I don't get every mosaics on Monday, but I'll post in between, and it just kind of depends on what I'm working on. So, and I don't only build mini mosaics, I do some bigger stuff as well, but my big is not nearly as big as some people's. So I don't know that I'm ever going to be a giant mosaic builder, but I'm slowly stretching my limits a little bit to bigger things as I need to. So thank you so much for coming today and sharing mini mosaics with me. And I really hope that all of you that are building will share in that if you're in the Discord, that you'll share what you built today. I would love to see what everybody comes up with. Even if you need to take a little bit more time to build, I know sometimes 10 minutes can feel a little short, but yes, thank you so much, everyone.